Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we continue our series on the Qin Empire and talk about 3 intriguing stories from Duke Wen of Qin's eastward expedition. Duke Wen of Qin, facing a dire situation, led his remaining 300 warriors and the rest of his people westward, seeking refuge among the Zhirong tribes. If history had followed this path, the Qin people might have gradually assimilated into the many ethnic groups of the western frontier, eventually fading into obscurity. However, at this critical moment, Duke Wen made a bold decision to return to the Zhou dynasty and become a vassal of the Zhou king. But why did he insist on being a Zhou man? Because only by identifying as Zhou could he justify his eastern campaign and carve out new living space for Qin. This was both a cultural recognition and a political choice. If Qin wanted to be part of the Zhou world, they had to move eastward, closer to the Zhou heartlands. From the perspective of that time, this decision was not a difficult one. Why? Because the benefits were immense. The collapse of the Zhou authority in Guangzhou was a political failure, not the complete destruction of society. Yes, the Zhou king had fled, nobles and ministers had suffered heavy casualties, and many small, vassal states had been wiped out by the Zhirong. Even the once mighty Lord Shen was not spared, but the ordinary Zhou people did not vanish. A large number of Zhou citizens still remained in the region, only without rulers to lead them. The warriors who once served these fallen lords now roamed Guangzhou, seeking a new allegiance. In such a situation, whoever could raise the banner of Zhou would have the power to rally these scattered people and form a new force. This was a real and tangible power. Whoever controlled it had a chance to reclaim Guangzhou. Duke Wen of Qin recognized this and declared himself a leader of the Zhou people. The first step of his eastward campaign was to return to Mount Qi. In Zhouyuan, the birthplace of the Zhou dynasty, he built an altar to perform the traditional Zhou rituals of offering sacrifices to heaven. This was originally the duty of the Zhou king, but since the Zhou king had fled, Qin took the initiative to assume this responsibility. Afterward, Duke Wen constructed a new city here, later known as Shichui Palace, and buried his father, Duke Ziyang of Qin, in Zhouyuan, alongside the Zhou kings. At Shichui, Duke Wen officially proclaimed himself Duke of Qin, adopting the title of a marquis, as if he had been formally enfeoffed by the Zhou king. He also established a government system, modeled after the Zhou court. All of this sent a clear message to the leaderless Zhou people. Qin was willing to take them in and continue the Zhou legacy. This strategy proved incredibly effective. As Duke Wen marched eastward, more and more people joined him. Why? Because he kept emphasizing, "We are Zhou people." After 9 years of war, Qin's forces finally advanced to the confluence of the Qian and Wei rivers. This is where the famous alliance of Qian and Wei took place. The true significance of this alliance was not about dividing territorial boundaries. It was a political declaration, a message to all Zhou people. The land east of the Qian River still belongs to the Zhou king. The land west of the Qian River is under Qin's protection. The real meaning behind this was, wherever the Qin people go, the Zhou dynasty will continue to exist. This greatly enhanced Qin's appeal, making even more Zhou people willing to follow them. Soon after, Duke Wen established a new city. The original name was lost to history, but it later became known as Xicheng, Western City, Qin's new capital. Next, he retook San Pass, which had been devastated by war. Here, he built a strategic outpost and named it Chenbao. Later, during the reign of his grandson, this settlement developed into Qin's third capital, later called Chenkang. Many years later, during the Tang Dynasty, the city was renamed Baoji, a name still used today. Now, let's dive into 3 legendary stories from Duke Wen of Qin's eastward expedition. Story 1. The Dream of the Yellow Emperor. When Duke Wen of Qin was stationed in Xicheng, Western City, he announced to his followers, "We must continue moving eastward." However, his men were puzzled. Wasn't the land around the alliance of Qian and Wei already good enough? The soil was fertile. The people were settling in peace. Why continue the eastward campaign? Facing their doubts, Duke Wen gave an inspiring answer. "I had a dream. In my dream, the Yellow Emperor Xuan Yuan appeared to me. He told me that he had appointed me as the Lord of Western China and granted me the divine right to inherit the position of the White Emperor." In ancient 5 elements theory, white symbolized the West, and the vast western deserts were often associated with this color. What Duke Wen meant was that the Yellow Emperor had bestowed Guanzhong upon him, and he had to carry out this divine mission to march eastward and reclaim the land. To reinforce this belief, Duke Wen built the White Emperor Temple on the eastern side of Zhouyuan, making the White Emperor one of Qin's spiritual symbols. This decision was deeply connected to the Qin people's totemic beliefs. The Qin originally worshipped the black bird, a black-colored sacred bird, which happened to be the symbolic color of the Zhou dynasty. On the other hand, the Shang dynasty revered the color white, since the Qin people considered themselves descendants of Shang nobility. They always believed in their noble lineage, despite their low status under the Zhou. According to the records of the grand historian Shiji, this event took place in the 10th year of Duke Wen's reign, shortly after the alliance of Qian and Wei. Duke Wen used this dream as a means to rally the Zhou people, inspiring them to reclaim their homeland. This mythological narrative was not only a strategic propaganda tool, but also greatly boosted morale among his troops. Story 2. The founding of Chenchang. Name Chenchang originated from an ancient temple called Chenbao Shrine. However, the story behind the temple's construction is linked to a mysterious event during Duke Wen's eastward campaign. In the 19th year of Duke Wen's reign, during his campaign, the Qin army reached the Chenkang Valley. The records of the grand historian recorded an extraordinary event. A red stone fell from the sky. Suddenly, a red-colored stone descended from the heavens. From a modern perspective, this was likely a meteorite. But to the ancient people, celestial anomalies were always seen as divine omens. Duke Wen interpreted the falling red stone as a heavenly gift, a sacred object bestowed by the gods. As a result, he ordered the stone to be enshrined and built the Chenbao Shrine in its honor, as a sign of respect for the divine will. The Qin people believed this was a sign from the heavens, guiding them along their path. This event strengthened their resolve to push eastward. From a strategic standpoint, Duke Wen's campaign had 3 key phases: establishing a base at Xicheng, securing a stronghold, capturing Chenchang, controlling the gateway to Guanzhong, advancing into Guanzhong's heartland, opening the path to the Central Plains. Seizing Chenchang meant controlling the vital San Pass, which gave Qin a strategic advantage in Guanzhong. This is precisely why later generations would say, "He who controls Guanzhong controls the empire." Story 3. The legend of Nute Shrine in Chenkang. There stood an ancient temple known as Nute Shrine. Beside the shrine was a towering catalpa tree, so massive that it seemed to touch the heavens. When Duke Wen of Qin decided to construct Chenbao Shrine, he planned to cut down this great tree to use as a pillar for the temple's grand hall. However, something mysterious happened. No matter how hard they chopped, the wounds on the tree healed instantly. Axes struck deep into its bark, but soon after, the wood regrew as if it had never been cut. The workers hacked with all their might, yet the tree's growth outpaced their efforts, leaving them utterly exhausted. In the end, one of them collapsed against the trunk and fell asleep. That night, he had a strange dream. In his dream, he saw an old man talking to a young man. The young man asked, "Aren't you afraid they will cut you down?" The old man smiled and replied, "Even if they send hundreds more, they won't succeed. I grow faster than they can cut." The young man thought for a moment and asked again, "But what if they wear red robes and let their hair loose while chopping you down?" At that moment, the old man's expression changed dramatically. Just then, the worker woke up, remembering his dream. He shared it with the others, suggesting they wear red clothes and let their hair hang loose while continuing the work. Sure enough, this time the tree's wounds no longer healed, and at last the massive catalpa tree crashed to the ground. But as soon as the tree fell, a supernatural event unfolded. A blue ox burst from the tree trunk and charged forward at an incredible speed. Stunned, the workers instinctively chased after it, but the ox leapt into the Feng River and vanished without a trace. The Qin people interpreted this event as a divine sign. They believed that the gods were guiding Duke Wen, pointing him eastward. To honor this celestial guidance, Duke Wen rebuilt Nute Shrine by the Feng River as an expression of gratitude, the birth of the Nute army. From that day forward, the Qin military formed an elite force known as the Nute army. These warriors went into battle with loose hair and red garments, fighting fiercely without fear of death. Their unmatched ferocity made them the personal guard of the Qin rulers, eventually becoming a defining symbol of Qin's military might. A hidden meaning behind the legend. If we analyze this story closely, we can see it is more than just a myth. It carries a deeper cultural significance. At the time, the nobility of the Central Plains had already embraced a more refined and aristocratic way of war. Wide robes, seated in chariots, directing battles from a distance. In contrast, the Qin people were still rugged warriors, roaming the mountains, fighting in a primitive, hands-on manner. They knew well that their appearance and customs clashed with the civilized ideals of the Central Plains. Yet, instead of hiding their barbaric nature, they did something far more clever. They gave their past a sacred, noble meaning. Through this myth, their wild, unkempt appearance and simplistic way of life were transformed into a divine revelation, an immortal sage guiding them toward destiny. This not only added a layer of mystique to their culture, but also justified their original raw strength and survival instincts as something predestined and honorable. The path of Duke Wen's eastward campaign. Duke Wen's journey eastward began with his father's death. At first, he led 700 followers, retreating westward to bury his father. Then he publicly declared himself a descendant of the Zhou people, officially taking the title of Qinbo, Lord of Qin. As he expanded eastward, more Zhou people joined his ranks. By the time the Qin people reached the confluence of the Qian and Wei rivers, they had gathered a significant following. There, they held the alliance of Qian and Wei, establishing the first Zhou city, Xicheng. From there, Duke Wen continued his campaign, defeating the Quanrong, securing control over San Pass, breaking into Guanzhong, opening the western gate to Dai, the Central Plains, founding 3 key cities that defined Qin's future dominance: Zhouyuan, Xichui Palace, later became Qin's ancestral burial ground, symbolizing their Zhou heritage; Xicheng, Qin's first foothold in Guanzhong, marking their starting point for eastern expansion. Chencheng, the gateway to Guangzhong, symbolizing Qin's true entry into the Central Plains. From a small border tribe, Duke Wen led the Qin people step by step into Guangzhong, laying the foundation for Qin's future rise to power. This was the legacy of Duke Wen of Qin, the man who set Qin on its path to empire.